Did you ever believe those on-camera handshakes actually meant peace? Don't be naive. In reality, it's just a perfect charade to mask a geopolitical storm brewing behind the scenes. While world leaders take the podium with their fierce rhetoric, behind their backs, the hands of power are already hovering over the launch button. Silence isn't a sign of hesitation. It's the growl before the predator strikes. New alliances are rapidly cementing in the east. The final order is issued by the military elite. Instantly, heavy battle tanks tear through the fog, roaring as they roll past the red lines. Tell me, can you smell the gunpowder yet? On the other side, the rallying cries echo just as fiercely. But look down at the bustling skyscrapers below. Millions of citizens are still rushing through their daily routines, completely oblivious that they're standing right in the middle of a giant chessboard played by superpowers. History always repeats its cruelty in the quietest of places. The crowds out there are walking directly on top of a ticking time bomb. And then, fire. A preemptive strike tears through the peaceful sky without warning. The media rushes into the epicenter like moths to a flame. Camera flashes firing relentlessly to capture the destruction. When the dust settles, all diplomatic conventions officially vanish, leaving only the law of the jungle. Breaking news broadcasts flash across the globe. At sea, naval fleets fall into formation like colossal steel monsters. Countless eyes frantically scan for targets through long-range optical lenses. Simultaneously, squadrons of fighter jets slice through the wind, carving up the clouds above. Behind closed doors, strategic minds are being pushed to their absolute limits. Those forced smiles can no longer hide the escalating panic. The next target, wiping out the core energy grid, from the central control room blinking with red alerts to the desolate outpost islands, the military surrounds every corner, while shadowy figures of soldiers slip through the dense forest. Up above, death takes the shape of a cruise missile, locking onto its coordinates. A hasty press conference is called. Top secret documents are flipped through in a rush. In that exact moment, a stealth warhead leaves its launcher, carrying an ironclad message with no point of return. This isn't just a two-player game. The world's eyes are glued to emerging alliances. The red dot of death blinks relentlessly on the early warning radar screen, guiding armored brigades as they surge forward. Mobile artillery systems are locked and loaded. The sky lights up in a fraction of a second. Interceptor systems wail with ear-piercing sirens. Maximum alert initiated. From bustling traffic arteries stretching across the ocean to the deep abyss of the Black Sea, firepower is unleashed without mercy. Radar stations spin into overdrive. In the stratosphere, fighter jets execute evasive barrel rolls. It all weaves together into a flawless symphony of death. Red lights rotate, signaling catastrophe. But do you know what the most ridiculous, absurd plot twist of this era is? While the world is burning in heated wars of words, to the puppet masters, human lives are as inconsequential as a swing of a golf club. The fate of the entire globe is being steered by impulsive, naive hands, like a toddler playing with a steering wheel. The curtain of secrets has just begun to lift. Did you think wars start with bombs? Wrong. The Game of Thrones continues on the waves as massive flagships cleave the ocean in two, and strategic flying fortresses glide by in cold blood. But look closely, all this flecks of steel is ultimately just to protect small pieces of fabric fluttering on a flagpole. Expensive treaties signed by absolute greed. A rushed signature is slapped onto a lifeless piece of white paper. Immediately, tens of thousands of combat boots march in unison to undeniable orders. And what's the endgame? A blinding explosion, incinerating everything in its path. Proving a brutal truth. Black ink on white paper can never stop artillery fire. Here is the most bitter plot twist. While ordinary people grind and train just to defend themselves and survive, the elites casually land their luxury private jets at fully stocked underground bunkers. And humanity? Are we just running in circles hopelessly, like a dog chasing its own tail in a loop of extinction? Looking up at the sky, mankind has proudly reached the loneliest of stars. But when we look down at rusted pennies and millennia-old frescoes, it hits us with a pang of sorrow. After centuries of evolution, the only thing that refuses to change is human nature itself. Every life is now encrypted into lifeless, glowing dots on a radar screen. Serious-looking experts endlessly point and analyze meaningless charts. Suddenly, BZZZT, static. The live television broadcast is brutally cut off. You see, sometimes the truth is gagged right on national airwaves. And look, some are still dancing away, clinging to shallow joys at the end of days. In a parallel universe, inside heavily air-conditioned boardrooms, dirty info campaigns are pumped with cash to churn out fake news. You think you're walking on the solid bridge of reality. But do you realize there's a river of lies flowing right underneath? No dark corner escapes the glowing red eye of the surveillance cameras. Countless public opinion steering meetings take place. Intense rapid-fire interviews are deployed to manipulate psychology. Meanwhile, the roar of helicopter blades shreds the quiet sky, flaunting absolute power. Couples still stroll hand in hand beneath the shadow of missiles racing toward their targets. Meanwhile, politicians keep talking, providing the soundtrack to a world edging toward destruction. The world is boiling over like a hot pot. Fleets cut through the waves, screens glitch with uncertainty, and no polished statistics can hide the reality when heavily armed warships reach your shores. A nuclear submarine disappearing into the deep is far more frightening than what appears on the surface. While people stare at their phones, soldiers march forward and burning aircraft fall from the sky. Missiles streak across the stratosphere. Fighter jets dominate the skies. Borders on maps are erased and redrawn in ashes. Despite all the maneuvering, humanity's final red line has been crossed. War machines continue their relentless advance, ready to erase generations of civilization. And when the smoke clears, only a lone reporter remains, describing a world that destroyed itself. Game over. Are you ready to wake up?